Hello, everybody. We're talking biggest All-Star snub this All-Star weekend. And of course, first name that comes to mind, Luka Doncic. With Anthony Davis going down with an injury, somebody's going to need to fill his place. The NBA or ESPN, they've leaked news in sort of an off-arm manner that Luka Doncic is going to be that player to step up. But if in an ideal situation where conferences didn't matter and East and West, they can all just play if they're the most deserving player, we want to talk about the biggest All-Star snub. And the question that we're about to tackle right now, is it Luka Doncic or is it Spicy P, the man, Pascal Siakam? Ben, we're about to sound off. What do you think?
Well, Ed, there's been a lot made about Luka Doncic not being an all-star this season, and obviously he's had a phenomenal rookie year. He looks like he's going to be one of the best players in the NBA, but Pascal Siakam, and you mentioned it, Anthony Davis is looking like the guy that's going down. He has this shoulder injury. Now, there's speculation that he might play. It's all just some fake news just to get out of the Pelicans, but that's his whole situation. This video is about who is being snubbed, and I think Pascal Siakam has been the biggest snub of this all-star selection. He's been the most improved player in the NBA.
Don't spoil any of the categories here. We are the Raptors Digest, so of course you would think that we're going to be a little bit biased by a homeboy, a Raptors player, but we're going to do as pragmatically as possible, as non-biased as possible. I've compiled a bunch of categories. I'll give the stat, and then you give who you think that point should go towards. You ready to start?
Yep.
All right.
Yep, so we're removing bias from the situation.
Removing bias, okay?
Ryker has the info. I do not. I have not seen any of these statistics, anything like that beforehand.
Exactly. All right, we're getting started. Category 1, exciting players. All right, age. Luka Doncic, 19 years old. Pascal Siakam, 24 years old. Both young. Who would you give the leg up to here? Okay, let's preface it even first with the All-Star game. It's about many things, many different variables, among which is it's an entertainment, right? It's entertainment. Yep. You want to bring fans in. You want it to be exciting. So interpret the stats however you want. First category, exciting young players, 19 versus 24. What do you feel?
I think just the way Luka Doncic has really just got the whole world around him, all the spotlight he has on him. Being a 19-year-old, I think the edge would have to go to Luka in that category.
All right, 1 point to Luka. Next category. All right, we're really breaking it down. What does basketball become? Two fundamental things, or the classic argument, threes versus dunks. Luka Doncic has that transcendent James Harden step-back three, right? He's not shooting at an incredibly high rate, but he's had some big shots, right? And his three-point ball is it's one of the highlights of his game. Pascal Siakam, complete other side, right? Complete other spectrum. Athletic, long, runs the court, high, flashy, athletic dunks. Who gets the leg up in this and why?
Now, this one's tough. Because that's a big debate. There's that NBA commercial that runs on TV about the Luka, or not Luka and Pascal, but the three-point ball and the dunks that obviously happen. And it hurts me. I get 2 against Spicy P, but as a 5'7" player myself, point guard, I'll dunk when it's worth 3 points. I got to go to the crazy threes, the spin moves, the acrobatic passing, and all that. I like that. I like to watch that sort of style a bit more than the highlight plays, the highlight dunks.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, because the All-Star game is about how can we deliver the most exciting style game. So you're going to the most exciting style game is a flashy passer, hitting threes, splashing them at a high rate. So you're giving the leg to Doncic in that round. I'm surprised on that one, but.
Yeah, it hurts to go against Spicy P, but passing ability, that's my favorite thing to watch. Probably why I'm such a Kyle Lowry fan.
Fair enough. Next category. Luka Doncic leads his team, right? We just had the Dallas Mavericks just traded 4 of their 5 starters, right? A lot of that was for obviously Kristaps Porzingis, but a grand portion of this too was them having this confidence vote in Luka Doncic to be the guy for the team, right? Because they're getting rid of everybody for this season, so now it's just Luka Doncic. He's the lone survivor, right? But his team is not good, not nearly as good as the Toronto Raptors.
Yep.
On the other hand, it's been a bit of a debate. Where is Pascal Siakam in terms of what option is he? Obviously, he's not the number 1. He could be the number 2 at times, but he's not the guy. He's not the man like Luka Doncic is. So, are you rathering the leader of the team on a bad team, or a secondary option on the best team?
Well, This might be a take that frustrates some people that are listening that maybe aren't Raptors fans, but the Toronto Raptors are so much substantially better than the Dallas Mavericks right now, and obviously Pascal Siakam, he's been objectively probably the second option for the Raptors this season, with Kyle Lowry out for most of the being out with that back injury and being underperforming a good little bit, but Pascal Siakam, he's the second option on a night-to-night basis, but Kawhi Leonard has missed about 15, 16 games, and in those games that Kawhi has missed, those games especially, Pascal Siakam has stepped up. We just saw last, against the Wizards, he dropped 44 points in a game without Kawhi Leonard. I think Pascal Siakam, his ability to shoulder the load when the other stars are down, and just how he fits into the offense, that's got to be an edge to Pascal Siakam.
Pascal Siakam. I'm going to give a null point. We could mention that Luka Doncic is a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But Pascal Siakam, in most people's opinion, is probably a shoo-in for Most Improved Player of the Year. So we can really say that, neither gets the leg there. But what we can talk about is stats. Because on paper, Luka Doncic has better stats. Both players equaling about the same amount of rebounds. Luka Doncic is dishing out more assists per night and about 5 more points per night. But, and this is sort of the crux of the argument here, is that more important than his wins added or his win shares? So the estimated number of wins contributed by a single player is 4.3. Now, this is obviously the rest of his team is not nearly as good, but Pascal Siakam is actually 6.6. So if we're looking at in terms of a player that individually contributes to the win or loss of a team, Pascal Siakam is actually doing better than Luka Doncic. So is it stats is a better or indication for All-Star, or wins added is a better indication for All-Star?
Well, this is a debate. When the Toronto Raptors were bad back in the day, and Andrea Bargnani had that one season where he was a 20-point-per-game scorer, had a bunch of rebounds. He had solid stats for 1 year, and I remember arguing to people about how, the stats don't lie. He's better than all these guys in the top-tier Eastern Conference teams, and people flamed me. Now, I was younger at that time, but, Luka Doncic he's got to get some wins, and obviously his impact and all that's felt. No, nothing to take away from Luka Doncic, but the more deserving player goes to the star on the more winning team. And the fact that the Toronto Raptors, I guess we have 2 in there right now, but Pascal Siakam, I think, deserves it over Lowry as well. Just the way he's performed this season, I think you got to go to the player that adds more wins to the team, especially when you're looking at reserves for an All-Star game.
Fair enough. All right. This next one, it's going to be hard to argue. It's going to be hard to debate. We're looking at fan voting. It's entertainment for the fans, right? Mm-hmm. Luka Doncic, number 3 in NBA players for number of fan votes before, obviously the coaches and the players weighed in, which equals 50% of the, voting for if you're going to be an All-Star roster player or not. Then he got snubbed. Pascal Siakam probably doesn't rank in the top 20.
Yeah.
So do you have a different take on this?
Well, Luka Doncic certainly is a more popular player. He's got I mentioned in the first point that we brought up, Luka Doncic is more popular and he's got more attention around him. So if the fans want to see Luka more, obviously he gets the edge in that category.
He gets the edge. And another point we can just lump into that one, maybe we can give him 2 points here, is also both players obviously have an international market, right? Or this is even maybe 1.5 points. Both players have an international market, but Luka Doncic is really doing something now for the global NBA game that, you don't see very often. Right?
Yep.
You have players, Canadians, that really are doing a lot to rally Canadian players together. You have guys like Dirk, and you have a bunch of players. We can go through the list that just make things more exciting for building the international recognition of the NBA. But Luka Doncic, because of his success in the EuroLeague and the immediate impact that he's had in the NBA, I mean, this is a guy that really is. The NBA executive are jumping for joy at the potential that he has at expanding the audience around the world. So it's crazy already, man. He's 19 years old.
Yeah, I think the thing with Luka as well, because obviously there's a lot of international players, and Siakam is one of those international players that have taken the league by storm. But Luka actually played in the European League and developed a fan base over there and dominated that whole league and got a huge fan base under his belt on that, across the river, across the ocean. So I think that fan base has translated to a lot of fans looking at him in the NBA. While Pascal Siakam, obviously he wasn't nearly as good at Luka at that age, and he came up in the NCAA system just like kind of everyone else. So that hasn't developed that that international following like Luka.
Now, I'm going to give you a crazy stat here. This is we're approaching one of the last categories, okay? Mm-hmm. And ESPN has ratings or listings for it's called the NBA attendance report. Okay, and I don't know how they acquire this statistical information, and I don't understand how it's necessarily valid, because I'm looking at what the listed capacity is online per stadium, right? Just because I'm interested, who's bringing in more fans per game, and some of these, they say what the average amount of attendance is per night, and it doesn't really add up to what I'm also seeing is the actual capacity for the game. But somehow ESPN is devising this report, so we'll go on the assumption that ESPN is correct, right? It's a big company. You'd hope that they have their numbers somewhat right, but
big data.
You will be maybe shocked. I was certainly shocked seeing this numbers that the average fan attendance of the past 57 games for both the Mavericks and the Toronto Raptors is 18,900. They both have the exactly equal average attendance per game. Okay, 18,923 and 18,912. So basically equal. However, the percentage of capacity is higher for the Mavericks, which would actually lead me to assume that perhaps the Mavericks have the better fan base. I don't know where this comes from, but what are your thoughts on this?
That's kind of interesting. And, the Toronto Raptors ticket prices, that's something that's always been complained about. I'm sure the Toronto Raptors have a lot of fans, and we have a whole country that's watching the team as well. So, people can't necessarily see the games. Obviously, neither of us live in Toronto. And a lot of fans, a lot of listeners, we have, just in the comment section below, we see Raptors fans from all across the world. Now, I know the Mavericks have a lot of fans, world-renowned as well, but I think the Toronto Raptors, it's hard to gauge who's the better fan base, as, quote-unquote, just by attendance.
So we'll give null point for this one, and perhaps last point here. Toronto Raptors, the Zervant, and this is, what is the actual audience then, not just fan attendance, but the audience. Are these players going to be watched after the All-Star game, right? What impact can they have? Now, Pascal Siakam is going to get the nationally televised playoff games for the Raptors, and throughout the regular season this season, they had 27 national televised games compared to only 5 for the Dallas Mavericks, and they probably won't make the playoffs. It's possible that they can. I'm gonna bank that they're not going to make the playoffs. Is this important for the All-Star considerations in an ideal world where, West and East doesn't matter?
Well, the All-Star game is supposed to put the NBA's talent on front and center. And I think Pascal Siakam has shown that he's an up-and-coming star in this league, if not a star already. And it'd be really cool for the league to just really introduce people to Pascal, because a lot of people don't know who he is, and that's been what a lot of these categories are. And people want to see their favorite players, and I'm sure Luka Doncic has a lot more fans than Pascal Siakam. But an interesting thing for the league to do is, for a budding star that's on the come up, and he'll certainly be an all-star next season. I think both of us agree on that. But just to have people know his name, know that he's an all-star right now, and for those nationally televised games, get more viewership in there, I think it might be better suited for Pascal Siakam to get on that stage, just because he's a lesser-known name. Now, obviously, Luka Doncic, it's good to show off all the league's young talent, and this debate's been super tough, because I think both of these guys are deserving and would have great fits into the all-star, and they're both completely different situations, but I think Pascal Siakam, it might be more beneficial for the league if people can just see what this guy can do in the All-Star game when everyone's watching.
Well, that's that last category, so that you're indicating that point goes to Siakam. So to sum it all up, you're right. Was tough decision. 4-3 for Siakam. So 4-3, for Doncic if you were tallying up at home. All right, so he was snubbed. Right, in our little metric here, we ended on a 7, so that way there's no tie. Doncic was snubbed, but we can obviously conclude that both players were deserving from the debate that we have. Also, obviously, Pascal Siakam can't take Anthony Davis' spot, right?
Yep.
It's looking like Luka Doncic will end up, if Anthony Davis does stay out, that Luka Doncic will fill in that last All-Star roster spot, which he is deserving of. I wouldn't have even minded if Pascal Siakam was the All-Star over Kyle Lowry this season, but like you said, Pascal Siakam, he's got a good career ahead of him, and he will be an All-Star next season, and that's undoubted. But it is interesting to compare the two. Both were snubbed. I'll finish on that, and then you can conclude however you want.
Yeah, but we still got a couple days, Ryker. The bet that we made, people flamed me for taking this bet about Pascal Siakam being an all-star this season. It got a lot closer than most people expected. And I might be the one eating some spicy hot sauce if, maybe Kawhi, he rested the last game of the season. Maybe he decides to sit it out and get his Pascal Siakam, his teammate, in there for my sake for this bet. But yeah, both players, Luka Doncic and Pascal Siakam, they're the two guys that people have been talking about that have been snubbed from this All-Star game. And as a homer, I want to say Pascal Siakam at the beginning. I kind of prefaced it saying that that's who I'd pick, but Luka Doncic has been ridiculously amazing as well. And for all the points that we mentioned, objectively, he might probably deserves it a bit more than Siakam, just stat-wise, all these sorts of things. But both guys going to have phenomenal careers. The Toronto Raptors looking good. It's looking like we have 3 deserving All-Stars this season, Ryker. Life is great.
That's it. Good podcast.
For sure. You guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. We're going to keep content coming over this All-Star weekend. Definitely stay tuned to All Things Raptors Digest.
Cheers.